Leo was a fun-loving, energetic boy. He would always be seen laughing with family and neighbors and playing around with friends. He always had a smile, no matter the time of day. Leo was a complete chatterbox. He would talk your ears off if you let him. This is why the change in him was very apparent to everyone after the incident last year. He barely talked at all and would jump at the tiniest noise. Unlike his old playful self, he became reserved and quiet. Too quiet. Leo's parents, Vince and Leah, were advised to be patient and understanding. The boy's traumatic experience caused a drastic change in his behavior, which is completely understandable. One day, Vince invited his brother Luke and his wife Sandra for dinner. Most of the time, Vince and Leah avoided having people come over since Leo became terrified of people. However, Leo was once very close with his uncle Luke, so they thought it was best for him to get used to seeing them again. And so, after dinner, Vince and Luke went to the garage to talk shop. Leah and Sandra sat on the couch, flipping through the family's photo album. Leo sat beside his mother as he quietly played with his toy car. As they came across an old family photo, Leah exclaimed, "Look, Leo looks exactly like his grandfather, don't you think?" She directed the question at Sandra. "Whoa, the similarity's uncanny," Sandra replied. "Come, Leo, look at Gramps' photo when he was young. He looks like you." At that, Leo timidly moved closer to peek at the picture. As soon as he saw it, however, he began shaking all over and wailing as he clutched at his mother's arms. "What's wrong, honey?" Leah asked as she wrapped Leo in her arms. Leo didn't answer, but continued to cry. Leah had no choice but to gather him in her arms and carry him to bed. Once he calmed down enough to go to sleep, it was late into the night. When she went downstairs, Luke and Sandra had already left. "What happened? Sandra said Leo suddenly burst out crying while you were looking at the pictures," Vince asked. "Yeah, we were looking at your father's picture when it happened. I don't know why I reacted that way," she wondered out loud. They took note of it before they went to bed. The following days went by without a hitch. All was quiet until one afternoon, when Leo knocked down the albums while he was playing. One album fell on the floor face down. When he picked it up, it turned to the page where his Gramps' photo was. When he saw it, he dropped the album like it had burned in his hand. He cried and stood frozen on the spot. Upon hearing his cry, Leah rushed to his side and asked what happened. But, as usual, the little boy refused to talk. She has no choice but to comfort the unspeaking child. Leo had been this way ever since they found him last year. It was only a few months after he turned 6 that he was kidnapped. That awful day, Leah took Leo to the playground because he was feeling antsy inside the house. He had been sick for the last couple of days. He got sick of being cooped up inside the house, so he begged his mother to take him outside to play when he was well enough. Giving in to her son's request, Leah bundled herself and Leo up and went their way. It was a decision she would soon regret. Leo was playing with a friend who brought a ball with him, while Leah rested under the shade of a tree. While the boys were playing, she chatted with the other moms. The other boy hit the ball too hard, so it rolled over in the direction of the trees. As he was nearest, Leo ran after the ball to retrieve it. However, long minutes passed, but no one emerged from that direction. "Come on, Leo, don't hog the ball," his playmate called. That caught Leah's attention. She approached the children and asked, "Where's Leo?" "He went to get the ball, but he hasn't come back yet," one of them answered. She then asked the boys to point her in the direction in which Leo went off. She followed the path, and after walking a short distance, she saw the ball, but her son was nowhere in sight. "Leo?" she cried out. "Leo, honey, come on, where are you?" She continued to call his name as she searched every corner of the park. She checked every tree, but no Leo. She went back to the children and their mothers, who wore concerned expressions. "Did he perhaps come back here?" she asked. The children all shook their heads. With shaking hands, she called 911 and informed them of her missing son. Soon after the call was placed, the park was crawling with cops. Vince came to the park soon after, having received a call from Leah after she got off the 911 call. As she answered the cops' questions, Vince kept an arm around her. They were instructed to go home just in case the boys simply wandered and went home. An hour passed, and then 2. Every minute was hell for both of them. 3 hours later, Leo was still missing. The police widened the search and released an Amber Alert on top of that. Friends and family joined the search, but all searches proved unfruitful. Through this all, Leo and Vince kept the faith that Leo would be found. Just before the 4th hour, they received a call. The kidnappers were asking for ransom. They didn't hesitate. They placed calls here and there to come up with the amount asked of them. However, as they were waiting for the kidnappers to call back and provide a meeting place, they received an unexpected call. A farmer from 2 towns over was delivering milk to stores when he noticed a little boy in his truck bed. He drove straight to the police station from there. The boy was crying, and the only time he answered a question was when he was asked for his parents' number. Leo and Vince were escorted immediately to where their boy was. As soon as they entered the door, Leo made a beeline for Leah and clung on for dear life. He never spoke, not even when Vince and Leah prodded gently, and so they left for home, and the police promised to continue the investigation. However, a year later, Leo's kidnapping became a cold case. The boy barely talked at all, even a year after the incident, so the police had no leads to follow. Leo being quiet all the time became the new normal. What wasn't normal, though, was his reaction to the picture. He did react to sudden noises, but he never had a tantrum as severe as this one. Because of this, Leo and Vince devised a plan to ask Leo about it without triggering another meltdown. Leah tried first. As she was putting Leo to sleep, he wanted someone with him when he went to sleep. She broached the topic. She showed the picture, but the boy only cried like he did before. Tired of crying, he finally slept after a few minutes. Leah went downstairs, discouraged. I heard him crying. No luck? Vince asked. Yeah, he cried as soon as he saw the picture, she explained. I wonder why this particular photo makes him react that way. Here, let me see that, Vince said, reaching for the photo. He looked at it closely. It was a picture he had seen since he was young. In the photo were his now deceased father and 2 of his friends. Studying the picture, Vince couldn't even guess what made his son upset. He put the photo back on the album and closed the lights. Before going to his room, he went to Leo's to check on him. He then saw that Leo was awake, so he entered the room. Hey buddy, you okay? He asked gently. His boy simply nodded. You know what, since you're still awake, let's play a game. Would you like that? Again, the boy nodded. Okay, so let's use your English book right here to tell me the answer, okay? Leo nodded enthusiastically this time. First, what do you call the boys you play with? Vince asked. Leo flipped through the book and found the word, friends. He pointed to it and looked at his dad, waiting for an acknowledgement. Very good. How about... He asked a couple more questions until he felt that his son was relaxed enough. He then asked, okay, now, can you tell Daddy why you're upset about the photo Mummy showed you? Leo, still immersed in the game, began pointing to words. Vince followed his little fingers and read the words aloud. I was here. Oh, okay. Now, what do you call... He continued to ask Leo questions until the boy was too sleepy to play the game. As he tucked the sleeping boy into his bed, his mind was whirring. He went back downstairs where he found his wife. I thought you went to bed already, he said. I was going to, but I couldn't sleep, and I heard you talking to Leo. Yes, honey, he said he was there, he said gruffly. There? Where? Leo asked, clueless. The photo, he said as he pulled the said picture. Leo was instantly on his side. Do you know where that is? No, I was told it was taken way before I was born. I don't think Luke would know either. Still, he studied the picture more carefully than he had before. It was then that he saw a mile marker somewhere in the background. However, it was too small to see. He pointed it at his wife and voiced his concerns. I think we can have it enlarged. I'll reach out to a former colleague and see if he can work on it. Leah used to work at a tech firm and only resigned to focus on Leo. The next day, Leah sent a message to her friend and received a favorable response. Still, they were on edge until 2 days later, when the enlarged photo was sent back. It was indeed a mile marker in the next county. It was near the area where Leo was found, but it was still far enough. He couldn't have walked that far away after he was brought there. Stumped, Leo went straight to the officer in charge of the case. When he went, Marcus wasn't around. Left with no choice, he approached another officer's desk. Hi, I may have found another lead for my son's case. I see Officer Marcus isn't around. Could you help me instead? Leave it there, I'll take a look at it later, the cop answered without even sparing him a glance. He continued to plead his case, but the officer paid him no mind. "Can I have Officer Marcus's contact number instead?" he asked. A passing cop overheard the question and asked him to leave his number instead so they could hand it to Marcus when he came in. Disappointed, Leo went back home. Leah, when she heard about it, was disheartened. What if we went there instead? The two made plans as a result of the idea. They left Leo with their closest neighbor, whom Leo was comfortable venturing to from time to time to play. They drove for hours when they found the mile marker. They tried looking for the house in the picture. It took them 3 tries before they found the right house. Like other houses in the area, it was abandoned as well. When they tried to turn the knob, they weren't surprised to find it unlocked. The house was dirty and filled with dust. It looked like it was abandoned years ago. Leah's heart clenched when she thought that her baby had stayed here, even for a short while. They rummaged through the things in the house. After a couple of minutes searching, they found a photo similar to the one they had, but unlike their copy, this photo had more people in it. That wasn't what surprised them. In the picture were his late mother and a very young-looking Luke. It was a surprise since he asked his older brother if he knew about the place, but he denied it. Although hurt, he wanted to get to the bottom of things. At that moment, his phone rang. When he answered, it was Marcus, who explained that he was out investigating another case. So Vince explained what he found out. Marcus said, "Call your brother and tell him you found the place where Leo was kept by the kidnappers. Tell him you'll visit the place with me tomorrow. Tell him that and wait for me there." He did exactly as told. When Marcus came, they all stayed inside the car parked behind a tree. They could see the comings and goings, but they couldn't be seen from the road. Luke's car came into view. He stepped off the car with a gallon in hand. It appeared that he was about to splash its contents at the house when the officers Marcus brought with him stopped him. He raised his eyes, questioningly, but saw Vince and Leah walking towards him instead. Instead of regret, his face was filled with venom. "You set me up? Isn't it enough that you got a larger inheritance from your mother and father's estates?" he shouted before he was dragged to the police mobile. The succeeding investigations revealed that it was indeed Luke who masterminded Leo's kidnapping. For what? Money. The saying is indeed true. Money is the root of all evil.